What's going on, y'all? It's Lando from iPhoTech TV coming at you with my very first video, which I just happen to be prepared for in time for the Galaxy S9 and the Galaxy S9 Plus. Alright, now first and foremost, let's take a look at the box content, see what we got here. Toss that to the side. Now, one thing that they did change is the information booklet is on top of the phone. Before, the phone was on top of it, so but no one reads it anyway. We'll toss that to the side. Of course, in the box, we've got our fast charging brick. Toss that over there. We've got our USB connector for transferring data from your own old phone to the new one, which they've been supplying since, I believe, the Galaxy S7. We've got our charger cable. Toss that over there. And then last but not least, we've got our headphones that are tuned by AKG, which retail for $100. So it's pretty nice that they are including that in the box for all the customers. Now, let's toss all that to the side. So let's take a look at the design, okay? At first glance, you would have no idea this is the Galaxy S9. Very, very similar, but why fix what ain't broke? So as you can see, very, very slight changes. The top and bottom bezel are slightly smaller. It's also a deeper shade of black to kind of hide the array of sensors that they do have there. And then if we flip it over on the back, that's how it's a dead giveaway, you know that it is not the Galaxy S8. The setup on the back is a vertical format instead of horizontal. So we've got the two cameras, we've got the fingerprint sensor underneath, and that is flanked by the heart rate monitor, which is to the right. Okay, now at the bottom, another pretty big change. We can see the speaker grill there, which is very, very different than before. Before, we did see kind of like slotted holes in the bottom as the speaker grill. This time we've kind of got like a recessed speaker grill. Now, one of the very last design changes that they made, which I'm a big fan of, is the border is a much more matte finish versus last year, where it was kind of like a glossy reflective finish, which in my opinion looked a little bit tacky, where it looks a lot more professional now. So that's probably the last design change that they made. Now, obviously, from the advertisements, the commercials, the camera has been reimagined, and that's the biggest focus of the Galaxy S9 Duo. So we've got two cameras on the rear. Okay, the main camera is going to be a super speed dual pixel 12 megapixel autofocus sensor with a variable aperture of 1.5 to 2.4. Now, when it's at f1.5, what we're going to be seeing is a much wider lens to allow in more light, just like your eyeball does when it's very dark out. Okay, when we're down at f2.5, or sorry, f2.4. It's going to be a much smaller lens to kind of limit the amount of light that comes in, and in bright areas. Okay, the second telephoto lens is also going to be 12 megapixels. Now, keep in mind, both of these cameras do have optical image stabilization, so you're going to be getting stable footage whether you switch from the telephoto or the main lens there. But much big improvement from the Galaxy S8 Plus, and I do have some pretty nice shots that I personally took just to give you guys an idea of how that comparison looks. Okay, now for the front-facing camera, which is pretty much the only thing that's visible here on this bezel, the top bezel there is a f1.7 aperture. So still pretty solid on the front camera, and then it's also 8 megapixels. Of course, it does include autofocus as well as image stabilization. Now, it wasn't just the rear camera that they reimagined. The front camera did get a reimagination as well, and that's in the form of the AR emoji, which is kind of Samsung's iteration of Animoji that we saw from Apple last year. Kind of a more realistic take on it, if you ask me. But as far as the rear camera, obviously the aperture there is definitely it's the only phone with a variable aperture, so that's one of the biggest reimaginations. But the super slow-mo, okay, 960 frames per second. Most phones are only doing 240 frames per second, so that's a big thing there. And then, of course, Bixby Vision, so that's obviously software, but they're kind of including that into the camera reimagination. And what that allows you to do is you can try on makeup if you want to, get a direct link to buy that. You can translate text in real time, which is pretty awesome as well. And then you can take pictures of food. It'll detect what kind of food it is, and then also let you know the calorie count of that food as well. So definitely some pretty big things coming out of the camera on the Galaxy S9. Now I want to give you an example of the quality of sound coming out of the stereo speakers on the Galaxy S9. They are tuned by AKG this year, whereas last year they weren't tuned by anybody, and it was just a single speaker. So let's have a listen real quick. This is the Galaxy S8 Plus.
Yeah, I guess I'm a disappointment. Doing everything I can, I don't want to make you disappointed. I guess I'm a disappointment. Doing everything I can, I don't want to make you disappointed. It's annoying. I should make you feel everything I ever did was never trying to make an issue for you. But I guess I'm...
So as you could tell from the examples, the Galaxy S9 is much louder, much more bassier. And I would say it might not be as clear, to be honest with you. It sounded just a tad tinny. But overall, I prefer the S9 speaker much more than I prefer the Galaxy S8. Now, in addition to the fact that they are tuned by AKG, Dolby Atmos is included as well. Now, of course, you have to be watching Dolby Atmos content to actually get the effect of it. But when you do, boy, is it music, definitely music to your ears for sure. One of the main differences is going to be size. The Galaxy S9 sits at 5.8 inches, whereas the Galaxy S9 Plus sits at 6.2 inches, okay? Now, one of the other differences between the two is going to be the size of the battery. The S9 Plus is rocking a 3500 milliamp hour battery, whereas the S9 is rocking just a 3000 milliamp hour battery, but because of the screen size differences, they will both be able to power you throughout the day. Now, some of the similarities, they both do include obviously IP68 water resistance, which is nothing new. Wireless charging, again, nothing new. And they both have the all-new intelligent scan, which what that does is that allows you to, depending on the lighting, that'll either use the iris scanning technology or the facial recognition technology to unlock the phone for you. Now, the main benefit of having that secondary telephoto lens versus not having it on the S9 is going to be live focus. Now, what that allows you to do is have the subject completely in focus, whereas the background will be completely out of focus. Now, that is something that you can adjust before or after the fact, which is something you can't do on the Galaxy S9. What you will have instead is going to be called selective focus. That's going to allow you to either have the foreground completely in focus or the background completely in focus. But it's really not the same as live focus. This is something that Galaxies have had for a few years now, but it's just not the same. Other than that, that's really going to be it. The optical zoom is really the other difference there, which if you're really not zooming in on your photos, if that's not really something that you do and you've done in the past, I think you'll be just fine without it. Alrighty guys, so that's all we've got for now as far as the S9 and S9 Plus go. Please stay tuned for some future videos. I do have a few more that I am going to put out regarding these devices, and do drop a comment and a like below, as well as hit that subscribe button if you were feeling the video. Let me know what you thought. That's all for now guys. Peace and love. That's a wrap. I'm taking that one.
Are you like that
I'm
one?
taking